Okay, so we are back for another episode of Data Disruptors, and today I have with me Sanjay Reddy from Vanguard. Sanjay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tomer. Looking forward to this. It's definitely an honor. I heard a couple of your podcasts. Very interesting. Data
Well,
Disruptors. I love the name.
well, we're disrupting things with data. I think that's the
Absolutely.
goal, and I know you've been doing that at Vanguard. And so you're the chief architect, right, of data at Vanguard.
Correct. That's correct.
And so
So,
I think most people in the audience know about Vanguard. A lot of what I have financially is in various Vanguard ETFs and things like that. Yeah, I think it's hard to just grasp how big and the scale at which you guys operate. So maybe you can start just by sharing some fun facts about Vanguard.
absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for being investor in Vanguard. And as I said, like our mission is to, be fair to our investors, stand by our investors, and we want to make sure that our investors are successful, right? With the low cost indexes, right? So a little bit background of Vanguard, right? Vanguard was started, actually, it's exactly 50 years. 1975 is when we started. We just celebrated the 50 years anniversary. John Bogle, he's the founder, and as you may know, he is a pioneer of US-based index funds, low-cost index funds, I should say. So Vanguard is, I should say, it's as of Q2, we were a little over, I think, at around 9.3 trillion AUM. It's one of the, I should say now it's the second biggest financial companies in the world, just behind BlackRock. We have over 50 US funds, 50 international funds. We are pretty much everywhere, North America, Europe, Asia Pac. And we have petabytes of data, as you can see. It comes from everywhere, and we have same challenges as any big organization has. Security, governance, things like that.
That's incredible. As I was kind of preparing for this episode, I was asking ChatGPT some questions. That's how you do it these days, and and I found out through my interactions, and hopefully this is not a hallucination, that something
I
like
hope it was not
7%.
biased either.
Well, it was saying that something like 7% of Apple is actually owned by Vanguard across the various funds, and that there's
Yes, that's right. So it's 7%. I think most of the big companies we are around that range, 7% to 10%. Like bigger companies like J&J, Google, Apple. Yeah,
yeah. Well,
it's
that's
all you
incredible.
guys. It's all
Yeah.
investors and make it successful.
Yep. So you, in your role, you're the chief architect for data, and maybe you could share a little bit about kind of where that fits in the company and
Oh
what
yeah.
the responsibilities are.
Yeah, so I'm a chief architect for data analytics. We are actually three of us in our group. One of them is leading the AML practice. I deal with data analytics, and another counterpart or deals with data management, data security, and all that, right? So three of us. And actually, I should say I'm part of CDAO, that stands for Chief Data and Analytics. It's not Chief Data Analytics. And this is a big question everyone asks. Is it data analytics or data and analytics? We are data and analytics. Headed by our chief data officer is Ryan Swan. Um, so, uh, so in CDAO is actually one of the biggest, second biggest, I should say, just behind CTO, in Vanguard. The way we have it is every line of business have their analytics platform under CDAO. They work directly with their businesses, and then now it comes with challenges. Every businesses want to bring their own tools, when they build applications. That's where the birth of EDO came in. EDO is Enterprise Data Office, where we try to bring some cadence on the tools, applications, architecture strategy, both in data and AI/ML fields, right? So that's where EDO came in, and we are the chief architects completely for CDAO side. And I said, like, with this, there's so many lines of business wanting to do their data or wanting to run their business the way they want. It introduces so much of data management challenges, right? So that's where EDO came in. And that's
Yeah.
my job, like coming in, bringing in cadence, trying to bring some right tools to make our business successful, right? That's a role. That's at a high level.
Cool. So everybody has this problem, it seems, of data being siloed, being all over the place, no single source of truth. And so in addition to that, it sounds like part of the mandate is also to kind of create some consistency around the tooling and the platforms as well. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah, data silos, man. I'm telling you, that's like a bigger challenge these days, especially we're trying to modernize most of our data, all right? So that challenge exists. And as I said, like we are coming from, we've had like all kinds of technologies, right? We're coming from a mainframe days. We still have data in DB2s, we have oracles, we have, name it, we have pretty much everything. Cloud data warehouses, now we are getting into lake houses, things like that, right? So those silo challenges still exist.
Yeah.
I think it's what do you call it? Side effect of any big organizations, I guess.
Yeah, I was just presenting at a conference in Tel Aviv and talking about kind of the different eras of data analytics, how we went from enterprise data warehouse to the kind of the data lakes, Hadoop clusters, and then cloud data warehouses, and now kind of the lake houses, right? And I think for most enterprises, it's not really a transition; it's actually another thing that gets added because nothing ever goes away, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'm telling you, I come from an experience where not in Vanguard, in my previous role, we had DB2. So we started migrating from DB2 to Oracle. And then just because scalability, right? We came into Oracle, RDBMS, great. Now all this, we couldn't handle all the load. So we went from there to Teradata for MPP systems. But we didn't take everything out of DB2 into Oracle. There's certain parts which came in there. Then certain parts, certain applications migrated from DB2 to Teradata. Then came Hadoop. We put everything, we tried to put all the data in Hadoop, but then we couldn't run all our front end applications there. We still had DB2, we still had Oracle, we still had Teradata, we still had Hadoop. Now comes cloud warehouses. Man, this is, I think, a nightmare for, it got into data management nightmare, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Well, my at least on my end, my hope is that now with kind of cloud and open table formats like Iceberg, right, and the ability to have a variety of different engines for different use cases, that people can start to have that kind of ability to adopt new technologies without having to kind of migrate their data, right? That you can share the data and use it in many different kind of
Absolutely.
ways and applications.
Absolutely. I think cloud, I'm telling you, open table formats like lake houses, right? Like Iceberg, Delta Lake, Hoodie, right? I'm a big fan of Iceberg. Um, for me, those things are going to be, at least you're going to be securing yourself for the future, right? Near future. I don't know what's up in 15 years, 20 years from
Sure.
now, but at least for the near future, that's going to resolve a lot of these access management issues, at least, right? You're putting your data in the cheap storage like S3s. At the same time, you're getting the warehouse capabilities embedded into the data lake, right? And then you can bring any native tool which can just understand the Iceberg libraries, and you'll be able to query the data, harvest the data, get insights. You don't need to be vendor locked in. I think that is something which I always try to promote here at Vanguard too. Is like, let's try to build data products in a format which is not vendor locked in, but instead it's more versatile or agnostic to any technology or tools. That is something which we are pushing as well. And I'm not saying just Iceberg; it could be even Delta Lake, right, or Hoodie as well. So.
Sure. Yeah, so you mentioned the term data product, and I'd like to double click on that a little bit because a lot of people mentioning that these days, and I think it's still not entirely clear to everybody what that means, and maybe there just isn't one good definition of it. But what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm going to tell my opinion, right? And what is that we are doing a little bit in our experience here at the organization, right? In my experience, right, if you ask me what a data product is, there are multiple definitions. For me, a data product is nothing but a self-contained, complete data entity. I'm going to say, I'm not going to say data set yet. I'm going to say it's a complete data entity belonging to a particular domain, catering to a particular business use case or trying to solve a business problem, which is also secured, controlled, and easily accessible. And I said one thing, right? You should be able to access that data using native tools. And the most important part is understanding. The end user should be able to understand the data product without knowing the intrinsic details of the technical details or anything like that, right? They should be abstracting all that. So that for me is a data product. And a data product could be a physical data product or a virtual data product. And virtual data product is something which we still need to do a lot of work on, but I can foresee a virtual data product coming in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my terminology as what a data product is.
So is the difference between a data product and a data set the kind of the metadata around it that's providing that information about what that data set is?
Yeah. So see, for me, this is a question I keep getting asked. Like, hey, is my table is being used, and it has all the quality metrics. It has pretty much gone through a robust CI/CD pipeline and everything. Why don't you call it as a data product, right? And for me, I say, if you just bring a table or just a data set and say, is it a data product? In my opinion, it's not. Right? It's like to just give some analogy, right? It's like saying that you go into a store and you're trying to buy cookies, right? You look at a cookie packet and you say, okay, this cookie was manufactured by this brand on this day. This is the expiry date. These are the ingredients. Pretty much all the metadata, as you said, is defined on the wrapper. But the actual product is the cookie itself. Now, how likely will you be to pick up or buy a cookie which is not in a wrap packet, but instead it's a cookie right next to the other cookie in a box? You're not going to pick up. You don't know anything about that cookie. It's still a cookie. It's still a product. You don't want to buy that, but you rather go to a package where it gives me all the details about what the cookie is about, right? It's the same thing. I would rather know about when the table was refreshed. What is it used for? What is the use case it can be used for? Does it have any PI data? What is it classified for? A bunch of things, right? And see, for me, another thing is, Tomer, a table can have multiple. It can have a foreign key, right? It's not complete. It's dependent also, right? It's like in the story, it's saying that, hey, this is a cookie, but guess what? You need to take the dough. You need to buy this dough. Together, it's going to be a cookie. No, it's not. Individually, it's a product by itself, but it's not together. It's not put together, right? So for me, that is critical to have the completeness. Recently, one of the guys were asking, like, hey, why can't we just denormalize the whole table and call it as a data product, right? You definitely can, but remember, you still need to have, what is a data product? In my opinion, it's that it gives a superior self-service capability, right? And that you can gain only by adding this additional semantic layer, metadata, business term, methodologies, put on the data product. It's like on the wrapper. What is that in the wrapper? So that I, as a user, can understand without knowing the intrinsic details, how the cookie was made, what is it machine used. I don't care. All I need, you ask a business user, they don't care about tables. It's data for them, but they need to know. They need to have the trust, right? So that's what it is, in my opinion.
Who's responsible for creating that? That packaging for the cookie.
So right now, what is happening here is we have an entity formed. I mean, we have a group which is formed as a data product exchange group, right? And we did this even in the past, right? Not just in Vanguard, even in my previous experience, they were getting into this journey of data product. But what we were doing here is we put in a template or a blueprint saying that, hey, this is how you need to create a data product. We don't know anything about what a data product is, what the business problem or what that business use case you're trying to solve. You do all the work. You're doing all the heavy lifting, right? Building that actual the SQL behind it, or even the Spark job behind it. You do everything, but we will take you to the journey. How I can take you from a manufacturing unit to that store. That's a journey. I'm going to make it easier for you, right? And that is something which a group can get involved, build that blueprint, and work with every business entity and saying that, hey, if you already have a data set, I will make this as a data product by giving this blueprint, fill that blueprint. We will build the whole process for you,
Mhm.
right? End to end process, productionalize it, monitor it, observe what is happening, and also give that access controls, pretty much everything. You
Yeah.
shouldn't worry about what the technology behind it is. If the data is sitting in S3 or any other technology, it doesn't matter, right? So
So,
that
so the
is
central team is responsible for defining this blueprint and managing the process, and then each of the business units can, use that blueprint to kind of create their
absolutely.
own.
Exactly. That's how it should be at the entity level, right? No more. If every business user is going to call, as I said, like what is data product? My definition versus your definition is totally different. And the businesses can do the same thing, saying that this is my data product and this is how I want to call it. But if you look from a organization standpoint, it has to be one. It
Yeah.
has to be a one definition, right?
Hmm.
And that's what we are trying to do. And as I said, right, and I'll tell you one of the things we modernize data. Listen, today we're talking about Iceberg and the cloud data warehouses. 10 years from now, I bet you we're going to migrate. The reason why most of the modernizations have failed, it's not because of the technical challenges. It's because we couldn't understand the rules, algorithms, or the what exactly is the data product? What is in it? The ingredients. We don't know what it is. Nobody wants to touch it because they're afraid the business is going to fail. If we can define that right now, standardize it right now, the future migration is going to be easier, right? So
Yeah.
that is the reason why the single group is critical to define this process at organization level.
And
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 that's
and,
again
and you
just my
mentioned that.
opinion.
Yeah. You mentioned that some of the kind of the properties of a data product are kind of the, what it's for, what are the use cases, right? So, what's an example of that, and then how do you enforce that it's only being used for, that specific use case and not something else?
See that's a good point, right? So when you create a data product, the first thing as a owner data product, and remember the blueprint, right? The blueprint is going to ask you that, hey, who's this owner? What is the purpose of this? The lineage, the if it's already there, that's another big
Yeah.
nightmare we are facing. But anyway, the whole life cycle and all that. In that due course, you also need to mention saying that, hey, what is this data set can be used for? What is this data product can be used for? Right? I can say this data product is used only for marketing purpose, or I can say this data product is used only for fin crimes or auditing purpose because it has some PI data. I classify this data. The proper classification categorization is critical. So if I define that at the birth of the data product, end users, when they are trying to consume the data, I can have more systematically saying that what is it you're using this data for? The minute I'm sure every organization has a set of use cases. The minute they say, I want to use it for fin crimes and this is approved project, you don't even have to ask the product owner. You can just directly give access. Of course, there's a bunch of other things you got to make sure that auditing, monitoring, all that happens. But you can immediately get that access to that end user, right? Self-serve analytics right there within a couple of minutes. But if it's not, say, if it's a fin crimes data, but then you say, I want to use it for marketing, I'm going to say no. But you can, here's the product owner, go talk to him if this can be used for marketing, right? And the product owner can modify it. And this is where, Tomer, I'm telling you, the future, this is where we want to start creating virtual data products because there's so much of PI data. If there's a data set which has a lot of PI data, I want to create a new version of it. Instead of creating the whole pipeline to create a new version of the data product, if you can just abstract those PI data, right, and just create a new view or a virtual data product with all the same definition. And now I say, here, Tomer, you can use this for marketing, but underlying data, nobody gets access, right? That is going to be the future. And that's something which we want to start looking into.
So different kind of views of the same data for different purposes, maybe with, yeah,
Exactly,
maybe, yeah.
exactly, exactly. I know we do this in the past. We just call it views, but we don't call it as a proper data product because,
Mhm.
as I said, like you need to have all those definitions of what a data product is, right? And that's the same thing as a virtual data product too. Have the same definition, but the underlying data set is could be one. It could be one, or it could be a giant, right? So.
And is there like a catalog that people can see when they go to this data product? They see what are the allowed use cases and.
Yeah, so we use a central catalog. here at Vanguard, right? And I think in most of the companies also use central catalogs. But one thing we do bring up is a marketplace. So we have a marketplace, data marketplace, and I still a lot of companies, right? And I'll give you an example. And this is something which Airbnb did. Is they promoted data literacy. They created something called a data university. It's like a one single place where people can come in. It's one standard formats and all that. People can come in and get access to the data, which kind of increase their usage of the data. Right, active users increased. Right.
Hmm.
The same thing with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo also did something like a data mesh concept, but I think they also for organization level, they created a single repository system and a single catalog system where you can go in and register all this data, whichever is required for organization level, right? It created that accurate data sets, right?
Hmm.
That is something which we also plan. We are kind of doing something similar. Have a single catalog, single marketplace, and in the marketplace you can have this is a data product and everything about the data product. You can have a data set, but if you want that data set to be promoted to organization level,
Hmm.
then you have to register that data set as a data product into the marketplace, right? So that's how you can get it. It's like I
Yeah.
can create whatever I need in my garage until I sell it in a store. I will not know. I mean, I will not get the name out
Do
of
you
it.
have necessary like auditing, observability to be able to see that, indeed it's getting used by the people that are supposed to be using it, being able to, what
Yes.
are they doing with it, that kind of stuff?
Oh my God. This is a common problem, not here at Vanguard, but in the past also I've seen that people have created multiple data sets and they call it as data product, whatever, right? But it's not being used. 60% of them are not used, saying that, hey, this can be used. I'm going to create this version of it. It can help these people, it can help these people. My take on this is don't create a data product unless until you know there's a use case for it or you're trying to solve a business problem. And this is something which we look into, right? We run audit reports. Audit reports are saying that how often this data set was or data product was refreshed. When was the last it was refreshed? When was it last accessed? Who accessed it? Which group accessed it the most? What is
Hmm.
it used for? All those reports, all those dashboards we built it, right? So this helps us. It actually helps from a data product owner perspective, right? Saying that,
Hmm.
hey, how is my data product being used? How what is that I can do? Because it's a product, you need to have different versions, new versions coming up, enhance it. Unless until you don't know what is happening, you will never be able to
Yeah.
improve your
This is
product.
something you built, this like tracking system and
We
dashboards.
built it in house. We built everything in house.
Cool.
The
Cool. And,
dashboards.
and what do you do for, I assume you have some kind of lineage in place as well for these data products,
Man, I
where
tell
they're
you,
getting.
Trevor, this lineage thing is a pain. There are tools out there. Say, for example, Calibra. Calibra has a lineage tracking tool. They use some kind of AI bot which goes in and traverses through a bunch of our codes, and they can say, okay, this is what it is. But the challenge here is now you're trusting a third party company to come in and look into your code. Right? That's like, especially a big regulated company like Vanguard, it's a big no-no. You cannot have a third-party company coming in and looking into your code, right? But we are getting into, we're doing something similar, right? We are running AI models which goes in, traverses through all the code, builds lineage based on this, and this. If it's a simple SQL or even to a mediocre SQL, it's easy to track. But then when you come into Spark jobs or glue jobs, where you're creating dynamic data frames and then you're like going from this data frame to that data frame, it doesn't do a great job, but it does some work, right? So
Yeah.
that really helps you there to go in and build something out. So that's something which we are still, it's a work in progress. We are looking into other tools as well. There are some tools out there which does a better job. I don't know, so we still
Yeah.
need to look into it.
Okay, cool. So we touched a little bit on AI, and that's obviously on everybody's mind these days. We use it extensively at Dremio, and then, I use it in my personal life. I'm sure you do as well. I'm curious. Can you talk a little bit about what role AI is playing in kind of in your world at Vanguard?
Yeah, so we are heavy into AI. I'll tell you that. we have been using a lot of LLMs. Um, talk about. I mean, as I said, like we are multi-cloud, and we started using multi-cloud LLMs.
Mm,
We built a bunch of SLMs too to solve certain targeted use cases. Some of the things which we are trying to utilize AI is, as I said, like data lineage is one thing, but most important thing is fraud patterns, fin crimes,
mhm,
right? These are some things which day to day I hear stories about how people are getting conned. Um, this is where we want to start using AI to understand the patterns of these cameras, understand the patterns of these transactions. This is where we are trying to utilize AI to help our end users and investors not get scammed, right? There are a bunch of other use cases, also very minute use cases, like we use Copilot
mhm.
heavily. Um, uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, things like that. There's smaller use cases also. We've like for Q&A, we try to implement bots. I'm sure you when you go to Vanguard.com, you see that it's pretty good.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, we touched on a lot of different topics, and before we wrap up here, a couple more I wanted to talk about, and specifically, to help kind of our audience here. So, we have a lot of folks that listen to this podcast who are kind of data leaders and professionals in kind of this world of data. So, any advice kind of from your career that you can share with folks, things that have made you successful, or mistakes that you've learned from, that you can share with the audience?
Um, I'll I'll tell you one thing is you got to invest in yourself, right? And that's something which I kind of did it late in my career. I wish I did this before. Uh, Everyone needs to invest in yourself. Understand the basics as well, right? So, like, if you are getting into if to be a leader, you need to. I'm not saying you need to be a data engineer or a data scientist to the core, where I need to understand what a parquet is, what a bucketing is, or a bagging is. I'm not saying that, but at least learn, put time investing in yourself, improving yourself. That is critical for me. The second thing is not just as a data leader, Timur, as a leader, right? And I'll give you an example. Fortunately, I was fortunate enough to meet our ex IBM CEO, Sam Palmesina. And this was back in Colombia. And one of the questions was asked, like, hey, as a CEO, what is the main thing you look forward or look for as a company, right, to make a company better? And you know what he said? He said, all we care as a CEO is money. We want to make sure our stocks, our share prices goes up. We don't, nobody, you think the board or investors care about how our company is doing? All they care is they invested money, they need the money back. They need some good returns, right? That's all they, and people are taken back. And then he came back and he said, but I'll tell you how you can achieve that. And he said, there's only two things: hire the right people and maintain a good culture. That is critical. If you can maintain a culture where people want to work for your
Mhm.
company, that will be a success for your company, right? And
Yeah.
automatically the investments goes up and your company becomes successful, right? So that is something which I tell leaders, not just leaders, anyone I work with, anyone who are aspiring to succeed. I say culture is important, attitude is important, right? So that's something. And most importantly, I'll tell you one thing tomorrow. I say data politics, right? Navigating through this organizational dynamics, influencing to make those decisions, those are critical. You got to manage that
Yeah.
well as well. So,
100%. I think so many of the challenges that we see, for example, working with our customers, right, are exactly that, right? It's
exactly, exactly.
the challenges, the organizational challenges, not just it's usually actually not technical challenges. Often
It's
it's the people, and they don't want to give you
absolutely,
access, and you don't have the right people that are on board with, I don't know, getting a new version in place or of the data, or just things like that, right? Everybody has their own motivations, and you got to be motivated.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing. Those are the challenges. If you can come through that, technical challenges are something which you can solve. It's technology. You
Yeah,
can solve it.
yeah, it's easier. Cool. One final question.
Absolutely.
We you're at a large organization, I'm sure, have many challenges. The listeners of this podcast include folks that are working on, solving problems, starting companies, building open source projects. What are some challenges that you have today that maybe folks can help solve?
Challenges as of today, right? I'll tell you what are the challenges which we are facing right now. As I
Yeah.
said, the data is pretty much everywhere, right? There's, I mean, there is nothing, and nothing in a central repository. If there is a tool, and there are tools out there, but it's not like a complete robust tool which can go in, travel through all those data sets or code and tell you when is this data refresh, what is it used for, take the technical terms, convert it to a B term, register that into a catalog, and have a product owner come in and just check off saying that, hey, this makes sense, this is not what it is, make those small changes, help that navigate to make it as a proper data product. And then the second thing here is merge the technical and the business catalog together. As I said, like, people are doing it right now. It's really not robust. Yes, there's technical catalog which caters only for applications. There's good business metadata catalogs which caters only for the end business users. The merge of these is also very, very limited. If there is a tool out there which can do all this, bring everything together, access management, security, pretty much everything becomes so easier. Um, with the way Gen AI is going, or even AI, I should say, is going, I think that is something which people will come up soon. It's
Yeah.
already happening, but I see
Yeah. I think in
it's not
general,
at a fully
the
matured level. Yeah, exactly.
we're going to see a lot of things that Gen AI kind of enables and unlocks that were previously maybe difficult to solve over the coming years.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
I'm telling you, especially with what I'm excited about is the quantum computing, right? It's 5 years, 6 years back, they were saying, hey, you need at least a few billion qubits to decrypt or decrypt a 2K RSA token.
Hmm.
But now you don't need that. You don't need the 2 billion keys. They're talking in thousands or ten
Hmm.
thousands qubits. Now the way quantum is going, man, anything can happen, right?
So
So
we're going to be in trouble here soon.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool, Sanjay. I really appreciate it. This has been a great
Absolutely.
conversation. I'm sure the listeners have enjoyed it. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Our pleasure was mine. Thank you. It was fun.